All right.
Whoa. Crazy.
Yeah.
How did I start last time?
Like a
Blech.
Budweiser.
Welcome to Power Pals, a show about video games, but also about movies, but also about comic books, but also about butts, but also about wieners, but also about boobies, but also about miniatures, but also about toys, but also about wing things, but also about other things. Welcome, everybody, to the show that is on Zoom because we will kill each other by being in the same room.
With our disgusting biologies.
Yes. I mean, Mike,
Our admission.
Mike, do you get nervous about that? So I get real nervous about the whole catching COVID thing, man.
I don't care that much. I wear masks and stuff to protect other people, but I have a feeling I may have already got it a long time ago because I thought I had the flu like about 2 weeks before all the shit went down.
Yeah.
And I went to the doctor and he was like, I don't know what's going on. Keep an eye on it and we'll put you on antibiotics. And so I think I already had it, but I haven't been tested.
Yeah, I would recommend getting an antibody test. I thought I had it too, but I'm like, is that just wishful thinking? You know,
It could
like,
be.
is that, you know,
I want to be special.
not special,
I mean,
just be like, I don't have to care about it, you know?
It is kind of funny how something like when a lot of times something comes up and people are like rushing to be like, ooh, me too. And I'm like, you don't want to say you have that. Like, that's not a cool thing to have.
No. And, yeah, and I also have like asthma and I'm overweight, so I should be in the high risk group if I do get it. So I should probably be, I would say I'm about 80% cautious, but every once in a while I'll do something where it's like after I do it, I'm like, oh, you could have given yourself COVID doing that, you know. But for the most part, I'm pretty cautious.
Yeah, I'm pretty cautious. I'm trying to get rid of the overweight part of my thing, but that shit is fucking impossible because I have high anxiety, so I'm releasing all this cortisol because there's like all kinds of crazy shit going on 24/7, and then so like you can't lose weight, you can't lose body fat if you got too much cortisol in your system. So it's like, what the fuck? All I can do is I can put muscle on. I can't lose body fat though, and that becomes a heart risk eventually because if I'm just a huge fat dude with giant muscles, my heart's just gonna die. You know, it's gonna be like there's no blood for you. You know,
filled to the brim with cortisol. All you've got is cortisol.
Yeah, dude. I know. I mean, it's not fun. I got to figure out a way to lower those cortisol levels. I was trying to medicate it. Take what?
I'm told cake lowers cortisol.
Cake does not, dude. I can't even have cake anymore, man. I can't have any of that awesome shit.
No, it calms you down, and then you don't have as much cortisol.
No, it calms me down. That's Mike. That's a diabetic stupor. That's not being calmed down. That's your pancreas shutting down and making you lay on the couch. Like
how about you calm down with some nice chili fries?
I mean, it sounds great. It sounds great. My thing is, I'm not a big sweets guy, but fuck do I want a pizza right now, man. I would love to eat a pizza, dude.
You're not a big sweets guy, but you're a big sweet guy.
Oh, hey. Oh, well.
Are you blushing, Andrew?
I was doing a voiceover for his cartoon I'm working on. I was doing it with you know that one of the guys, Ryan O'Neal. You know him, Mike.
Yes,
he,
yes.
And you know
I'm familiar with Ryan O'Neal.
And you know his wife as well, because you did a scene where both
he
of them
did blow a fake load on my face once.
Yeah, so you did a scene
Yes.
where him and his wife were fucking right next to you, and then he didn't want to have a son. He has a whole dream vision about what his future son would look like,
Right.
and then he pulls out at the last second, and you're sitting right there, so he comes all over the side of your face.
Yes.
You remember that? Well, anyway.
Wait, I have an addendum to that. About a month after that happened, a former manager of mine passed me in the hall at the Improv, and she went, ugh. Like a month after that was released. So to her, it was the equivalent of doing porn.
Yeah, I mean, it was a super funny scene, though.
It was. It cracked me up. It cracked up everyone at the comedy store. So, that doesn't say much, but yeah.
Mike, you turned into a slow robot there.
A bit of a delay.
I just want to point out the fact that you turned into a slow robot as you were talking about fake cum all over your face. So it was extra crazy. And now you were frozen. This makes
with a big grin on your face.
You were frozen and smiling, and none of this makes any fucking sense. It went like this, Mike.
I thought maybe it was intentional for a
This
second.
is how I want to be remembered.
Boy, slowing.
Yeah, you were like, and they basically said all that cum on my face was like in a porno. Bling, smile, freeze. End of call. What the fuck is that? If your internet's gonna crap out, this is the funniest way to do it. To go full robot on the. It's still doing it. Now it's just noises. Now it just sounds like someone shouting down a tube. It is. It's crazy. That's the craziest way. What is happening, Mike? Oh, it's just electronic tones, Mike. I didn't hear any of that. It was just. Mike Black has entered the waiting room for this meeting. Okay, but he's here too, so that makes sense. Now there's two Mike Blacks! There's two Mike Blacks in the video! Switch to gallery view, there's two of you! One of you is frozen laughing, and the other one is actually here. Oh my god, that was incredible.
Mike.
Oh, he left.
Oh,
I
he
don't
did
see
leave.
him.
But for a second there, I was like, you could have fucked him.
I'm not the one who wants to do that. God has gifted the wrong man.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, so you know Ryan and his wife then, is basically.
Yes, that's the upshot of that story.
So we were doing a voiceover for a cartoon that I'm animating where one guy's wife gets railed by a centaur who's got a horse penis, except that it's a human penis, but the size of a horse's penis, you know? So she doesn't think that her husband will care, you know? Anyway,
Right.
So we were recording the dialogue, and then afterwards, we were all like, so how did it go? And then everyone was like, very complimentary to each other. And I was like, hey, isn't it neat that we still need to be praised? Like, we're so stoked to be praised like that.
Yeah.
Because it was genuine. We were like, oh, great. Well, this was a great way to end the recording session, with a round of praise for everyone. I love it. I can't get enough of it. So thank you for whatever praise you said before you turned into a horny robot that was. Oh, so we got some more questions and answers.
We sure do, if I can see straight. Okay, this is from one of our super fans, David Ace Gutierrez, at DM Gutierrez at Twitter, and he says, "Unfortunately,
is it Gutierrez? Is it
Gutierrez? Gutierrez. Gutierrez.
Would you pronounce it Gutierrez or Gutierrez?
Or Guitar Hero is.
I think it's Gutierrez.
Gutierrez. He asks, how would you rate list the Zelda games? I know this is heated discussion amongst Zelda folk, but I've never played a Zelda game.
I have neither.
Yeah,
what?
this is I feel like
and
this
I
is
don't
a question.
care to.
This is a question.
And I'm not bothered by it.
This is a question for Jerry.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I thought you liked Zelda, Andrew.
I like the first Zelda, and I like it when Link dresses up in a gypsy girl outfit and gets butt fucked on fan art. But other than that, I don't much care for it. I like it a little bit, but it's not. I liked it a whole lot when I was a kid, and I would say I kind of like it, sort of. I wouldn't play it.
That amusing story about the kid who beat the final boss with a stick.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all I like about
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
No, but I have friends that play it. To me, it just seemed it's a lot like the Mario games, where making a game is secondary and showing off what the new system can do seems to be like the really important thing. And I don't give that much of a shit. I just want a good game that I like.
I would say that these are probably all great games. The thing is, I just it's a lot like the Mario thing for me too. I know that Mario games are good. I just don't care anymore. You know, I don't really care about.
It's just not my cup of tea. Yeah.
Well, and I think that it's an interesting, this is obviously beyond just video games. This is in all kind of fandom. But there seems to be that weird rule in fandom that, like, if you're not for it, you're against it. Yeah, it's one of those, like, I'm sure they're fine. And obviously they have some appeal because lots of people I respect really enjoy the games, you know? But just don't know what it is. And it seems like it should have all the right pieces, right? Because you've got fantasy, you've got the kind of the hero's journey, you've got the sort of normal kid, like gifted with the almost divine purpose, you know, that sort of thing, being elevated from, you know, and yet I think it's because I didn't have consoles growing up. So that's why. Yeah. And in that time, like, pop culture wasn't the way it is now. So it was like, if you weren't playing it, you couldn't absorb it, you know? So I just wasn't exposed until I was a grown up. And by that point, it was kind of the same way with Pokemon, where I was like, I can absolutely see that if you'd been doing this since you were a kid, that you would feel loyalty and devotion by this point. But I can't jump into it, you know? I can't do it.
You know what also, it's not that I didn't have consoles at that time. It's that there was always a game I was much more interested in.
Yeah.
Like, going back to, like, I would much rather have played Metal Gear than any of the Zeldas any day of the week, you know? And so, you know, at that time, and it's still kind of the same, if you only had $50 to spend, you kind of had to pick one or the other.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't want this family-friendly bullshit. I want to be able to sneak up and stab people, you know? And, you know.
I loved the first two games, and I used to dress up as Link when I was a kid. And I also loved the Super Nintendo version of it. But here's the thing. There was a time, and I think you guys can relate to this, where I remember the transition between I'm a fan of video games and I'm a fan of only one type of video game. Like, as I got older, I started to only kind of get one kind of game pretty much. But as like when I was younger, if I liked video games, you had to play all kinds of video games. I remember in college playing Rainbow Six, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six,
Yeah.
and being like, "Oh, this is the shit, dude!" Like we're throwing flashbangs at each other and stuff like that. But I would not play that now. I would never download that to play with my friends now. The only reason I was playing it then was because, I mean, how many video games were there? There weren't that many to play. And if I wanted to play something with my friends up and down, like shouting through the dorm halls about like killing each other or whatever, that was just a handy game to have, you know?
Right. Yeah, and like I look back at like the 80s arcades and the stuff I played then, I still love and I'd still play. But if it were introduced to me today, I wouldn't be caught dead playing something like Frogger or Cubert or, you know, even Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man. I would not give a droplet of shit about those. But because I grew up on it, now they have those like world's tiniest arcade games. I play those all the time.
Yeah, I think there is a nostalgia factor. I think Nintendo's smart in that they're banking on that nostalgia factor. That's why they continue to make a Zelda, a Mario Kart, a Metroid every single time they reboot their system or whatever. Because it goes all the way back to when you first started playing video games. And there is a level of being like, oh, I'm back in, I'm doing this again. But for me, I there's so many games that I play that I get really wrapped up into, and they're very specific. And I don't like kind of wasting my time playing other games, really. You know, even though I know they're good.
Yeah. There's a bunch of games that I know I would have a great time playing, and even some games that I bought where I'm like, I know this game is great and I could lose tons of time inside of it, but I would rather play some other new game or some other really old game that I've had for a long time. You know, like I find myself revisiting games that I really, really enjoyed more often than trying something new, you know.
Yeah.
I just recently got Elevator Action again. And,
you know, it's funny. After spending 11 years working in retail, I'm still not over that complex. Like, I mean, it's just, I mean, and it feels nice talking to you guys and hearing that you kind of game the same way. But like, exactly, I had things that I liked, whether for the sake of money or interest or just the way that we grew up gaming. There wasn't that idea of get everything, you know, there was what do you like and dedicate and get all of that. So when I would work at the game store and people would ask me if I'd played something or sort of call me out on my cred for not being super well versed with something like Nintendo. And that's just like that. I mean, that's a culture thing. I didn't grow up on Nintendo, and then trying to come to it later and sort of doing it just for the sake of like, oh, better play every, you know, Resident Evil so I know what I'm talking about. Like, if it doesn't spark me, I mean, not to say that I would never try it, but I kind of feel like I was there when it came out. I didn't spark me, you know, and I'm not going to like punish myself so that I have the cred of having done this, you know.
Yeah. I had to get that way with movies and comic books as well, where I was like, I get the gist of what that's about, and I know me well enough to know I'll either get into it or I won't. So I'm just going to trust that. And if it lowers my street cred with a certain person, so be it. Fuck them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, Mike, I'm the same way with comics too, which I would collect as a kid, I would collect a smattering of everything pretty much, you know?
Yeah.
And then I got older, and about the only comic I think you could talk me into is like maybe the way they do the Conan and Barbarian stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I go, okay, this is interesting to me because I think I like the way the art looks and shit like that. Like, but other than that, I mean, I think I did the Cassandra Nova saga and New X-Men, and that was it. That's the only like real thing that I've read in the last 20 years besides Conan stuff, you know?
For a long time there, I was reading pretty much every major thing that DC and Marvel was putting out. And then over a short period of time, it whittled down to I was just waiting for Daredevil every month because that was the only one I was really enjoying.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, man. Absolutely. So
Sorry
to
to
answer your
disappoint
question,
you, David.
I can answer the question. The best Zelda is Zelda for one, the first one.
Zelda Jr.
The second best Zelda is the Super Nintendo Zelda.
I wish it was called Zelda for one.
Zelda for one.
Zelda for one.
The third best Zelda is I don't care. I feel like it all becomes a muddy gray thing of me only kind of caring about it. All right, what's another one?
Oh, you know what? Actually, if I'm just going to go from having no idea what I'm talking about, at least from knowing selling points, I always thought Majora's Mask seemed, Majora's Mask seemed interesting because it was on like a 3-day time cycle where it was something where you had 3 days to do all this stuff in the game or else like the moon was going to crash into the world but then it would restart. So it was kind of like you could play it, you know, the game never officially like ended. You just sort of had a time period in which to get something done.
Yeah, but that's just your NPR Zelda pick there.
When I was told about that, though, that sounded interesting. Yeah.
I never played that one though. I didn't have a GameCube. I didn't have an N64. I was mainly playing PC and a little bit of PlayStation, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that Breath of the Wild, once again, but you kind of already had to have the investment. But like if you already had the investment, the Zelda investment, I'm sure that Breath of the Wild was like incredible, you know, because it's like when I was watching my roommate play it, it reminded me a lot of WoW, just with the expansiveness. With that you could go anywhere and essentially do anything, that there were goals, but if you wanted to just go on an exploration kick, that it was completely possible. And it seemed like the game was built for the love of the franchise. So, I mean, that's super cool. But once again, like not knowing it, it's sort of wasted on me. You know, it would be like someone who'd never seen a Disney movie going to Disneyland.
Yeah, I will say, as a kid, I thought Zelda was the coolest thing ever, and then I played Final Fantasy on Nintendo. And that locked in, I think, permanently what I wanted out of video games. You know, like it just...
That's a very good question. Is there a game that you feel like this is what I've been waiting for in gaming? Would you say that was how you felt about that one?
Oh yeah. That was one of the games because you got to pick your own class, you know, which is like in D&D, which was like awesome. You know, it had the Japanese anime pixel style, which I thought was cool too. The interface wasn't as bad as like I used to also play Bard's Tale a lot on the Apple II GS, and even though that had like incredible graphics compared to Final Fantasy, it was for grown-ups. And since it was for grown-ups, I wasn't going to make a grid map on some graphing paper to find my way out of a dungeon like these fucking nerds were doing. I wasn't going to do it, you know? Like I could never get very far, but I could beat Final Fantasy as a kid, you know? So there was definitely that. It was definitely that, for sure.
For me, it would have been Fallout 3. Like, just the
all the way
combat system... I'm sorry, what?
All the way into adulthood? Is there any game in childhood that would have done it for you?
Oh, in childhood, probably... I think Metal Gear was closest to what I was looking for, but I wanted more and better combat.
Uh-huh.
You know, I would say when it got to Metal Gear Solid, that was pretty damn close to what I had been looking for.
Yeah.
You know?
If we go to adulthood, I would unfortunately have to pick Skyrim, even though it's just so over. I mean, who gives a shit about Skyrim anymore? But
Yeah.
If you
It
look
was-
at the amount of hours I put into Skyrim, I put in like 2,000 hours into Skyrim. I played it for almost a decade.
I'd
You
say
know?
they're very, it's the same studio, of course, and they're very similar sort of games. The only reason I give the edge to Fallout for me was that the combat system was so much better.
It is.
And that's the only difference. But like, if I had my choice of which type of game to play in, it would definitely be Skyrim. And if Skyrim had a system similar to VATS,
Yeah.
it would be the perfect game as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree. I agree
Yeah,
100%. That
at the risk of sounding like newbie, it would be wow for me, because that was the first time that I felt that it was fully immersive, that it was everything that I sort of cobbled together from all my different experiences, because it was like you could play one thing and kind of feel like that scratched that itch, or play this thing and it would do that. But WoW was everything all together. And it was the first time that I felt like, I mean, it's funny because I think of myself as a gamer like pretty solidly now, but back in 2004, 2005, it was really, I played computer games and that was about it. And it was still not the social boon, the cultural boon that it is now. So it still felt like just almost like an undertended part of my personality. And then to play that game and to feel like a real gamer, not only in that I understood mechanics, that it wasn't just something like I love a game like Soul Calibur, but I really don't know what I'm doing. If I play against someone who has any clue how to pull off combos or something, I look and feel ridiculous. But then playing something like WoW, it was like, I can be good, I can know why I'm good, and and it also scratches the totally like outside of the technical thing. It was the fantasy itch. It was my character. I had a name for her. I had a family history, even though it has no play in the game. I basically had a D&D sheet for her, even though it didn't, so even though that was when I was like 19, it did take me a long time to come into gaming as like a full like part of my identity. And I think WoW really pushed it over the edge, because it was like, oh, this is what it's like when you can get totally immersed,
Right. And I feel like with the types of games that we're talking about, whatever kind of player you are, whatever your skill set really is in real life, you can focus on that and enhance it in those kind of games. And you get rewarded for being good at it from a certain vantage point. If you're really good at sniping, or if you're really good at gambling, or any number of different things, and they really
even something
cover
like being an anal obsessive collector has a payoff. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
something not really useful.
Yeah, it having those different like packing perks and stuff like that really makes a big difference. And a lot of that stuff, it's like, boy, am I glad I saved that thing, because now I need it. That toy gun that kid gave me is really important now.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. I love those games, and that's all I play now. All I play is RPGs now. Like, I don't think I've looked at
like adventure games and the odd horror game and stuff like that. But I would say the ones that I really am like, oh, I'm going to be out of commission for a week or two, are games like this,
Yeah. So if it's not a video game, but the real culprit behind all of this was Dungeons and Dragons for me. If I hadn't played Dungeons and Dragons, the way I played video games would have been totally different.
Yeah.
And all of these were just ways to play Dungeons and Dragons without one of my friends being like, and then a goblin stabs your butt cheek.
Yeah.
Avery, what's another question we got?
All right, here's a good one from another super fan, Cherokee Shuffle, at Nickel the Wise at Twitter.
Hey, what's up, Nickel?
Mm-hmm. He's a good old flag. Good old flag. I am looking at 4th of July stuff right now. He's a grand old flag.
Well, forever in truth may he wave.
Oh, Nickel. I'm sorry. All right. All right. He says, do you have a favorite Miyazaki or Satoshi Kon movie? Yeah, I think that's a fairly good one. He also does say, I don't know how Mike will answer, so he does concede this may not be your wheelhouse, but you like film, so, you know.
I do. Name some Miyazaki movies, because I don't think I've seen any, but I might have.
Howl's Moving Castle, Princess Mononoke.
Nazca Valley of the Wind.
Spirited Away.
Yes. My favorite is Princess Mononoke, because it's the only one for sure that I've seen. And I went to the Los Angeles premiere of it, where they redubbed everything with Hollywood actors' voices.
That's right.
And I accidentally stumbled onto the red carpet, and Billy Bob Thornton was standing next to me and gave a Deathlock type stare to the bag of Carl's Jr. I had, because he was starving. He had just lost a shitload of weight, and he was real into that bag of Carl's Jr. and I don't think he gave a shit what was in it. Just whatever was in there, he would have given me $1,000.
He just wanted to lick the grease from the bag. That's all that mattered.
Yeah.
Hey, that's keto. You can lick the grease. You just can't have the bread or the tomatoes.
And you're not allowed to feel good about it.
You will feel bad. That's for sure. I've eaten burger grease before. I've not felt good. Avery, what about yours? What's your favorite one?
That's really tough. I mean, I want to say Howl, because I'm drawn to so many of the characters in Howl. I think they're
best characters for sure. I think in a Miyazaki movie, most compelling character-based story.
Yeah, and even just the way, I mean, and even, well, like you were saying, Mike, I feel like a lot of times slapping, usually I am a subs over dubs kind of person, but in Miyazaki films, I feel like they go out of their way to pick American voice actors who get it. Like, they don't just go for the, like, oh, this person is a box office draw. They go for, oh, this person has expressed interest in, in this kind thing. So I think like Billy Crystal is the voice of the fire in Howl's Moving Castle, and he's just hilarious. It's so funny. That's cool. And it's also, it's like a total, I mean, he's the fire. It's literally a side comic relief character. He's like Miracle Max in Princess Bride. He's there for a second, but it's really funny. I like the character progression in Howl, but I think I've seen Ponyo more than any of the others, and I really love Ponyo. I think it's sweet and simple, and I think that the art is stunning. I think that like the tsunami sequences and stuff with like the fish and everything are just like, they're the pinnacle of I mean, they have a lot of what makes Mononoke great, but I feel like having the ocean element and having that sort of like suspension of physics really just, it's like outer space, it's like there's sequences that look like cool, almost cosmic, and I think visually probably Ponyo, but story-wise I would say Howl.
I've been calling it Ponyo.
No, it's Ponyo. She's a little girl with a round tummy. Ponyo,
Ponyo, fishy of the sea.
Can you imagine driving around with a mixtape of songs like that and Maya the Bee? And just
I can.
Crap like that.
I have a playlist. I have a whole playlist of like anime weird like intro music and stuff. And sometimes
The Last Unicorn, all that shit.
Yep, and you're just casually looking at them like, yes, I do listen to the Blue's Clues soundtrack. Don't judge me.
Ponyo is great because like how much she likes eating ham. It's very, very sweet. It's definitely not my favorite. These films are interesting to me because they're also like formational for me as well. Mm-hmm. Because I saw a version of Nazca Valley of the Wind called Warriors of the Wind that was done by FHE, Family Home Entertainment. I don't know if you guys this is an 80s child thing. But for a while, there was a company called Family Home Entertainment, which would take anime titles and then cut out anything scary and then put them on a video and put them in a video store for you. So I saw Warriors of the Wind that way, and I also saw this is not Miyazaki, but it was called Revenge of the Ninja Warrior on Family Home Entertainment, but it's called Dagger of Kamui in the actual anime, which is a much more adult anime than what was in the actual, with what I saw in Family Home Entertainment.
Did the movie you saw make sense?
It did make sense. There were some things that didn't. He sleeps with his half-sister in the real movie. They kind of just cut away from that in the Family Home Entertainment version of it. There's still like a lot of arms being chopped off because they're fighting with ninja swords and stuff. And there's a lot more death that just gets kind of cut away where someone goes, ah, you know?
Boy, they must have really hurt themselves.
But Warriors of the Wind stuck with me as a kid because no one else has seen it. And it's also, I mean, it's a pretty sad, Nazca Valley of the Wind is kind of sad because it's about nuclear war. You know, but it's done through.
I mean, so is Grave of the Fireflies. I mean, I think that's kind of.
Yeah, but Grave of the Fireflies is so sad that I won't touch it. You know, I just won't. I won't do it.
That's like a water.
I won't do it.
I will not do it. It's like a plague dog. It's worse than Watership Down. It is like Plague Dogs level because you go to it thinking, oh, an animated film, and then you're instantly like, what the fuck? Like there. I mean,
it's too sad. It's too sad. But that music in Nazca Valley of the Wind, the la 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 is amazing. And I remember just the idea of it being okay.
Is it?
Is amazing. Yes, it is. I'm not doing it justice,
Okay.
obviously. Because I'm not going to sit here and really try to belt out a kid singing la 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 over and over. But it's also
why we need Jerry back on the show.
It's so he could do it for 5 minutes, and then be like, "Come on, everybody!
You know the words. Let's do it."
Well, if you don't, how about this? This is the Pointer Sisters.
Come on.
How about this one from Gremlins? Mega Madness, Super Badness. He's like, hold on, let me plug in my bass real quick. I'll do all the bass lines.
I'm not doing it justice.
So that one was like a real formative for me. I would say that because it was about like a post-apocalyptic future, you know, and everyone's like sick all the time. And also as a kid, I had severe asthma. I would be hospitalized for it. So the fact that they can't breathe in their atmosphere in Nausicaa because it's got mold and spores in it from like this, like there's like this mold that grows on steel beams from this nuclear war, and so it's really, 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 really toxic. That was really interesting to me. If it was a later one, when I was in college, I saw Mononoke, and there's something about the nature spirit in Mononoke that is felt like they were tapping into some kind of ancestral memory.
Yep.
I felt like
the big deer thing.
I felt like I'd seen it before.
Yeah.
You know, like I felt like they had done a really good job tapping into that just start of humanity memory stuff, that pre-Bronze Age storytelling.
Well, because they would have been those kind of like megalithic animals, those those mooses that are like 2 stories tall, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, regular moose are tall as shit.
They're massive anyway, yeah.
But like, yeah, but the megafauna were real, and our ancestors saw them. You know, like.
Yeah.
So there was something really fascinating to me about that time period. You know, like I guess, Mike, I would describe the time period as between the time the oceans drank Atlantis and the rise of the Sons of Arius.
Yes. A
There was
time of high adventure.
there was kind of a world undreamed of, and unto this land, Conan. But that's why I like Conan too, because Conan takes place in a lost age that is like pre-civilization too.
I love caveman fiction. I know that's kind of a weird, but in 6th grade, I read a book called Cave of the Moving Shadows, and it's about this boy who's being trained as like an oracle or like the seer for his village, but he really kind of wants to be a hunter. And I don't remember how, but I think he gets like separated from his tribe, and he has to use sort of a combination of both of the skills in order to survive, because a lot of the oracle stuff to them would have been viewed as magic, but to us is stuff like reading the sky to know what time of the year it is, to know, oh, hey, it's going to be cold soon and I need, that kind of thing. I just remember how fascinating it was to think, and the way it was told, it was really well written too. But yeah, that kind of sparked off this like fascination with that time period of humanity, where like we have way more of a grasp on things like, science and physics than obviously all the animals and stuff around us, but it still comes across as like magic, and I think that's really cool. It was still they figured out how to harness it a bit without really understanding it, and I think that's super cool.
Yeah, I really like that time period. That's why we were talking on the 2 episodes ago about the 13th Warrior, and that's one of the reasons I like that too, is that Bronze Age, just as we're becoming aware of our surroundings, kind of human story is fascinating to me. I feel like it's very magical. All right. What are next?
What are next is...
What are next?
All right. This is from our good friend Winston Gambro, at Winston Gambro. And I'm just going to add as well that he's a fantastic artist, and his Twitter tag says his commissions are currently open. So check out Winston Gambro if you need some good art. The question he has for us is, what's the most embarrassing thing you've ever done in a video game or D&D?
Well, I think we covered in the last episode, Andrews, where
right, most of my life. Jeez.
Yeah, that is true. I'll try to think of another one while you guys go.
I mean, I'll lay it on the table. With WoW, I got way into the WoW lifestyle, and our guild started hanging out in real life and like hooking up and stuff. And I made some poor choices in that. Right? And it was one of those too, where it was like, you kind of already knew, because it was like, you knew the person from in game. And they maybe sucked in game, and then you met them in person and they sucked in a whole new fantastic way. But you were like already committed because you like had this built up pre-relationship online. So maybe you'd like already flirted or already felt like, oh, well, when we meet, cool, but then you'd meet and you'd go for it and you'd be like, that was a bad idea. Now we have to run raids together every week. So yeah. So, I mean, I would say that was one of those, and it literally straddled real life, where it ended up being something that like affected gameplay, where you were like, damn it, like this is supposed to be my safe play. This is supposed to where I go when the real world sucks, So yeah, that's mine for sure.
I think mine is very different from that. Mine is, I was playing Mortal Kombat 2 in college with a number of people there, and I beat a kid so bad that he dropped his controller and lunged at my throat, and other kids had to like pull him back, and I was laughing the whole time, and I was like, but it wasn't his frustration that was making me laugh. I was laughing thinking, this will be a hilarious way to die. if I'm killed, if I'm literally
Mortal Kombat,
playing Mortal Kombat in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. So it's similar. I was playing EverQuest, and I met these 2 hot chicks on EverQuest.
Were they hot in EverQuest, or did you know that they were hot also?
They're hot in real life. They're
okay, cool.
models, and they came over and blew me at the same time. But like one of them farted, and I was like, "Oh, gross! Get out!" It was crazy. It was so embarrassing. Anyway, so that's my story.
That sounds horrible.
It's a real embarrassing story.
That happened. I never met anybody. I never met people in real life from video games.
Well, I mean, I think that would be my most embarrassing thing was I flew across the fucking country to meet people I met online because I don't have real friends. Ding, ding, ding. There's my most embarrassing. And then I slept with some of them. There you go. Like, this keeps getting worse.
Yeah.
I guess if it's a real embarrassing story, not being blown by farting Swedish models from EverQuest, it would be I'm trying to okay, so I was playing EverQuest, and this chick that I had hooked up with at a party because she had me do body shots off her at a party came into my room to see that if I had any weed, and I had just ripped a huge beefer right before she came into the room, and I had left my door unlocked. She came into the room, and then I had also put cologne on because I was going that night. So she first smelled my cologne and goes, "Oh, you smell good," and then leaned in to smell more of me, and then absolutely smelled my fucking fart.
Yeah.
And she left. And I also
I like that she doesn't say anything else.
I also didn't have any weed. So
she just, you smell good. Then got a good whiff and took off.
She needed weed, and she probably would have hooked up with me to get weed, but then she smelled my fart and got no weed.
She probably needed weed then more than ever, too. Like, you know.
The only way I could have redeemed myself in that situation was to have had weed, but I didn't. So
right.
There was nothing that I could do.
If you had convinced her that your fart was the smell of really good weed.
The new strain.
Dude, it was so embarrassing because I was like, oh no, I farted. And then she's like, oh, you smell good. When she said, oh, you smell good and came in to lean closer,
success. Pulled it off.
It was like, no, I knew.
No,
I was like, no, don't come closer. I knew. I was like, oh, God damn it, don't smell this fart.
I remember,
I
remember in college dropping one in a hallway where I thought, like, it was after hours and we were doing Strike on a play where you rip the set down.
Yeah.
And the bathroom was like 2 floors away, so I was like, I have to fart, so I went down this hallway and farted, and the girl I had a crush on starts coming down the hallway with a load of lumber that she's going to take to the elevator.
Yeah,
and I was like, no, the elevator's not working. You have to go the other way. And she was like, nonsense. It was working 5 seconds ago, and kept walking. And then she smelled it, but she was already past looking at me.
Yeah.
And she just kind of paused and then just sped up and walked through it really fast.
Yeah.
And then took off. And I was like, God damn it. That relationship did not work out.
Oh, ripping beefers, man. They have ruined a lot of things.
I'm trying to think of a real embarrassing video game moment. I know I've had some where I was just beaten badly in a video game by someone else. But
well, I have a lot of that where I have a lot of anxiety about trying to learn anything in a game that's outside my comfort zone because people respond. I mean, trolls make me feel bad, you know?
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll play something like Overwatch, and I'll screw up a mechanic that is kind of, and maybe it happens, and maybe I within myself think, that was silly. Oops. And then I'll get like a message from the person about like,
Right.
you're a worthless Winston. And it's one of those things where I'm like, it's not that it actually hurts me, but I'm like, the effort I know it takes you to pull up, like sending me a private message to tell me how much I suck is like, can't we just accept that I made a stupid mistake? I do that all the time with Winston in particular. He's got like a bound, like a big jump, and I'm not good at gauging its range. And sometimes I'll just jump off the world and crash to my death. And it's sort of like, it's embarrassing, but yeah, it's like, oh, well, it's
That
Overwatch.
should be a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just jump off the world.
And then I'll get the little message like, don't ever roll Winston again. And I'm like, wow, you have a lot on your plate, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, when it's part of a team dynamic, that's always funny because whoever's pissed at you about doing something embarrassing, wait 5 minutes and they do something equally fucking stupid.
Of course they do. Of course they do. That's also why I don't even play those games. Like, if you want me to play a video game where I have to be good in real time, suck my dick. I'm out of here, man. I don't have time to be good in real time at it. You know?
Like, if you can't just make a snarky comment alone in your, like, you're inherently playing the game alone anyway. Like, say to yourself, that person sucks. And there you go. Don't you feel better? Like, what is it in you that's like, I need to exit this game? Enter the messaging, like type it out on this shitty little controller. Like it upsets me so much.
I did recently when I was playing Predator. It's always 4 random people and nobody hardly ever wears headsets or anything. And it's the 4 of you against a fucking OP monster, and so tensions are high, and there's like little things like you have to reactivate a pump or something. And it takes one person to do it. And me and the other players all go in the room to do that. And this one guy goes, it doesn't take all 4 of us, dumbasses. And we were like, yeah, but you look stupid. So we didn't think you'd be able to do it, you dumb fuck.
Yeah, I can't handle it. I can't handle people being mean on a game. It makes me too angry. And it's like, I don't do it. I know people are able to turn that side of their brains off, but I think that the people who are mean in games like that, and they're just like, those are sociopaths. They're just not killing people, Anyway, guys, I got to go for this episode.
Do you have time for one more question? Because it'll finish off all the questions. If not, it's cool.
Okay. Yes, but let's try to
make it quick.
Barrel through.
Okay. This is from Anthony, Born to Run _19, and he just says he's a lifelong wrestling fan. He used to keep it DL because people love to shame it, but he says fuck it now. Is there anything you used to be ashamed of liking that you aren't anymore?
Wow. My life is so shame-based that I got over that in grade school, like early grade school, the idea of being ashamed of anything that I like. I honestly can pinpoint the final day of that was dressing as Howard the Duck in elementary school. And it was the year the movie came out. I don't remember what grade I was in, but I remember everyone kept telling me I was Donald Duck. They weren't asking, they were telling me, you're Donald Duck. And the only person who got it was our vice principal. And even he was like, are you dressed as Howard the Duck? And I was like, yeah. And he kind of mumbled to himself, he's going to have a hard life. and that
Poor kid.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, he's probably right. But that was pretty much the end of that shit of giving a fuck, about whether people liked me for what I liked,
Yeah.
Yeah. Our whole thing on this has been my shame of things that I've been ashamed of.
Yeah.
I'm no longer ashamed of. It was a constant battle. Every single thing I was into, because I grew up in the South, I had to be ashamed of it because it was either satanic or dorky, or
right.
So my whole life, everything. My mom made me take 7 years of tap and ballet. So there's that. There is dressing up as Link, but everyone thinking I'm Fat Peter Pan. There was dressing up as Raceland Magier from Dragonlance, and everyone thinking I'm Red Riding Hood. It was just a series of mistakes. Every step I've made a series of shameful mistakes I had to get over something. So I don't know if there's a dorky thing that I feel ashamed of now. I also grew up fat. So that was a real kick in the dick just waking up. So
yeah, because there's no covering that. There's no hiding that in your backpack or anything like that, you know.
No, you can't pull a silk shirt out enough times to make your tits go away. You know,
Right.
like it sucks. So compared to just being a fat human, me enjoying comic books or liking certain TV shows definitely didn't register.
Yeah.
What about you, Avery?
It's kind of funny because I grew up as an only child, and I was always in private schools with, I mean, fairly small classes. I mean, we're talking under a dozen kids. And I think that at a certain age, if you're precocious enough, people will just fall in line. Like if you feel confident and you're out there taking charge, the other kids will go, sure, why not? You know? So up until a certain age, I didn't feel challenged. I would present a schoolyard game, and everyone would go, cool, who do I play? What's my role? I mean, it just kind of seemed to be happy to have someone like calling the shots. And looking back, I can see moments that I think I was probably overbearing and bossy as a kid, but like, I have to give it a lot of credit to being like, that's a really confident kid who's like, no, you do this, here's how I want it. And then I changed into a school that was like much bigger class, and it was just totally different, where I was still coming at it with like, hey, here's me. And they were like, oh, didn't anyone tell you? That's not cool. That's weird. Mm-hmm. And it was odd because not only was it a different response, so I wasn't getting like the validation from people that I'd gotten before, but I didn't know how to act now, because I was used to setting the standards, and all of a sudden it was like, if you like it, it's probably not good, and you better look to somebody else for guidance on what's good. So I fought with that all throughout middle school, high school, most of my 20s. It's really only been recently, and like exactly like you guys say, it's most of my interests are something that falls at least somewhat under a shame category, or under something that people like don't understand or would think is weird. One that I actually think is funny that I think of often is I've been a true crime fanatic we used to watch Forensic Files when we ate dinner, like as a family thing. Like it's been a thing for a long time. And to see it now super commodified as like this really almost cutesy, like have wine and listen to a true crime podcast, I can't really get behind it, because I mean, I got sent to the principal's office because I had like I also watched Seven, so then I had like those creepy like comp notebooks that he had in Seven, and I would make them like little dossiers on all the serial killers, and I would carry them around. I definitely got sent to the principal's office for that one. That did not go over well, but now it's like and now there's like these girls with book deals on it. But even then, it's like the titles of the book deals are still based around like, be cute and be into death. And it's not like, I always really liked it because I felt like a psychological outcast, And not that I relate to serial killers, but I was super interested in the outskirts of humanity, Right. And to see it now as like almost sexualized thing, it doesn't quite sit right,
When something that you found that helped you deal with not being a part of society becomes mainstream and it becomes the society, That's a really hard thing to deal with. It's almost like if you were part of, say, like the Texas goth scene early on in your life, and then it becomes mainstream and just ruins it.
Well, because it's odd too, because it's not like, it's like you're still excluded from that hierarchy. It's not like the hierarchy is formed and they go, oh, I remember I knew a really weird girl in high school who knew everything about serial killers. Why don't I talk to her? It's like you're still just, you know, you're still on the outskirts. So and even then, the way that the current discourse around it gets shaped is not like the way that you would like to have it, you know. So I mean, maybe that's just personal. That is definitely
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Because I mean, and I think that's what encourages I mean, it's kind of become a joke now, but the like, I liked it before it was cool. It's that idea where you're like, I didn't need you to tell me to come here. And even your reasons for coming here are different than my reasons, you know?
That's exactly it. It's like, it was much cooler before it was cool is usually a big part of it, you know? Before you dipshits got involved, this was actually a fun thing to do.
Sorry, guys, I have to go.
You're cool. We can go.
I have to go. And that is our episode.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.